everybody, and welcome to Real Talk with the Roses.
Don't react in the heat of the moment.
That's very good. The difference between reacting and responding. Mm-hmm. And that's in all of life, not even just in parents. But whenever you react, you usually handle things really wrong. Because once words are spoken, they can't be taken back. Mm-hmm. No matter how much you apologize, the words still sting. And that's real good advice. So do you think we succeeded there? Were we good at that overall, about responding instead of being reactionary with you guys?
I think so. There were definitely times, just because of your personality, you would react kind of, but everybody does that. So just learning from your mistakes, and I think overall you guys always did that.
So that brings up a good point. Let me ask you that. How do you think Dad and I did with handling parenting failures or parenting mistakes? Do you think we handled those? Well, what maybe stood out to you the most that we did right or that we did wrong, that you wish we would have done differently?
I think the biggest thing that they did right was they always came and told us they were sorry. If they did make a mistake, if they reacted in the moment, or maybe our punishment wasn't just or whatever, they would always come and say they're sorry. And I think a lot of parents don't do that because they feel like if they admit they're wrong, that their kids will respect them less, when in reality it makes your kids respect you more.
That's a good point, because a lot of parents don't admit when they've done something wrong. It's just like, I'm the parent and that's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. Let's ask you, Bub. How about you? Do you see things the way Sissy did? Did you perceive things that way, that we were quick to apologize, or did we handle it wrong?
Y'all are always quick.
So how did that make you feel? Like, if I lost my cool and reacted in a moment instead of responding, and I came back to you later and said, Bub, I'm so sorry, Mom shouldn't have hollered at you like that. How did that make you feel? Did it still, like, the sting of the moment whenever I was so hateful, was that still the overwhelming feeling? Or were you like, oh man, that's pretty cool, Mom really was wrong? How did it make you feel to hear an apology from your parent?
I mean, it made you feel like, that y'all saw, like, what you did was wrong, but it didn't, like, make you think, oh, they were wrong, I was right, so I can just, keep doing it, because what you did was still wrong, but how the parents reacted to it wasn't right. Mm-hmm. So that okay, well, they shouldn't have done that, but I'll make sure not to do it again. Yeah.
And just like even with adults, like if somebody offends you, does it make you feel good when they acknowledge it?
Oh, yeah.
And your kids are the same way. If you find yourself in the middle of a tense situation where someone's offended you, whether it's a spouse or a coworker, a neighbor, whoever, when they acknowledge that and come back to you and say, man, I'm sorry, I blew it, it makes you feel good, and you appreciate that they've done that. And I think kids are the same way. Kids need to hear that, because parents are not perfect, and kids need to learn that. Now, here's what I took away from that. I think that it taught our kids how to better respond to each other, because I've heard them apologize to each other. Of course, when they're real small, we had to make them, because we were teaching them, go apologize to your brother, or go apologize to your sister. But as they got older, it became natural for them to do it. And it became natural for them to do it to us. Do you remember the times that, and I don't know about with you as much because I was just home all the time, but there were times that if I had to get on to either one of them for anything, whatever it may have been, if I had to get on to them for something, both of them have come to me and said, Mom, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't talk to you like that. Or Mom, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. And put their little arm around my neck to tell me they were sorry. Do you remember times like that?
I do remember some.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's helped us to be closer in that way, because, and here's the deal. When they came to offer me the apology, I did not rehash with them what I had already gotten onto them about. Because the punishment had already been given, right? I mean, would you say that's pretty true? Mm-hmm. And what about you, Bub? Is that how you remember it? Like, I didn't rehash over again, well, I was so mad whenever you did that. Don't you ever smart off to me like that again. Because I knew, wait, they get it.
Right.
It's just like it in a husband and wife. Whenever you come to me on your own, or I come to you and say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't talk to you like that. there's no reason to rehash it because you know they're sincere. Like you can tell a sincere apology versus one that you're just sorry you're in trouble. And for them, whenever they would get it, it would be like, oh wow, how awesome, they've learned that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And what do you think about that dynamic in a parent-child relationship?
I think when you see that happening, you know you're doing something right.
Yeah.
So it just reinforces what you have learned and what you have taught is coming back in a positive format.
Yeah, and it's not just because we taught it with our words, but we taught it because that's what we did to them.
Right.
Like they saw it in action. Do you think so?
Mm-hmm.
And what about you, Bub? So like whenever you guys have your own kids, do you think you're going to be a lot more apt to offer those kind of apologies and things like that because you had that when you were young?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because you learn more from what you see happening versus what you hear being said. It's kind of like that old do what I say, not what I do.
Right.
Your kids are going to do what you do. They don't care what you say. All right, so let's talk about maybe the fairness of discipline. Because we did mention this on that live broadcast that we had over on Divine Design, is keeping punishment equal to the crime. But that does bring up another point about the learning, the teaching aspect of discipline. Do you feel, let's start with Bub first because I keep making you answer first. We'll let you off the hook for a second. Bub, do you feel that, or do you not feel that as you were growing older and as you would do things that you may have, and they haven't had to be disciplined a lot, and I'm not just acting like they're the perfect children because I know every parent thinks that, but they really have been good kids.
Yeah.
And they haven't had to be disciplined for a whole lot. You know, I mean, I could count on both hands probably the number of times they were like in serious trouble. But the times that you did do something that we had to teach you wasn't right, like knocking your sister's tooth out when her tooth was loose. How do you think that in our discipline, you know, whether we put you on restriction, took a toy away, how do you feel we did with that? Like, did we take the time to tell you why you did or why what you did was wrong so that you could learn not to do it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like you always explain something. Like if you're taking my toy away, you were explaining it while you were taking it away. So like I listened more because you had the thing I wanted.
Okay.
And it was made clear the time frame as to the duration of the punishment.
And we stuck to it.
Yes.
If I told them 24 hours, it was 24 hours, not 23 and a half. And it wasn't 24 and a half. It was 24. We stayed if I told these kids, matter of fact, there were times, I know people don't believe in this whole counting thing. Like if I count to 10, if I told these kids, if I count to 3, you're losing Buzz Lightyear. Because that was most of the time that you would lose it. Like I would give him a little bit of time, you know, like go put your toy in your bedroom, clean the floor. And he wouldn't do it. And I would say, if I count to 3 and that's not in your room, you lose Buzz Lightyear for a day.
And I think the advantage to that, it gives them time to start thinking about consequences.
Yeah.
You know, is it worth it? And most of the times it's not. So they do what's being asked of them.
Exactly.
But it's training them, it's teaching them.
And there were times that I got to 3, and whenever I would say 3, he would grab it and run. And I'd say, nope, I got to 3, you're losing Buzz Lightyear. Because what happens is if I get to 3 and then he grabs it and runs, that teaches him just wait it out till 3.
Yep.
So it only took a couple of times, and if I went 1, he was picking it up and putting it up. And I know that parents say, oh, well, you shouldn't even have to count at all. They should just listen to you. Like I can remember whenever early on in our parenting, some of the common statements that you would make, because this was a process of learning for us too. Because, you know, you don't know everything whenever your kids are little. They're not little and we still don't know everything. But one of the things that I can remember you were saying is he should just do it because I told him to do it. And you would also say, well, with my dad, we just did it because he told us to. You remember that?
Right.
And it took a long time to learn that, okay, parents can get in that mindset, but that's not always the right mindset, because thinking back to when you were little, if you sincerely wanted an explanation, I don't think the phrase ever should be uttered, because I'm your mom and I said so. I don't think I ever said that to you guys, did I?
I don't think so. If you ever did, it was one of those, like, we had already asked why and she explained and we probably still didn't want to do it, and she would say, you know, like, I'm the parent, you need to go do that.
What about you, Bub? Do you ever remember either me or Dad saying, because I'm your parent, I'm your dad, I'm your mom, just do it?
I don't.
I think we tried real hard not to do that. You may have made those statements to me, but I don't even remember you saying that to them. You know, like that was the mindset you had, like, why am I having to explain this to him? And I would say, but Steve, he's a kid. He does need to understand.
Because that was a foreign concept for me growing up.
Yeah.
Because my dad was in the military,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, you do what I say, and we did it out of fear.
Yeah.
And of course, that's not the correct approach.
It's not the correct approach if you want your kids to sincerely learn how to live life. You can turn them into little robots who are going to be afraid of you, who will do everything you tell them to do because they're afraid of you and they're afraid of punishment. But what have you taught them about being a functional adult later on? You know, our kids right now are fully functional. I would not be worried about them one bit. If something were to happen to us, God forbid, and they were to be left to try to survive in this world, I am confident that they are fully capable of handling life. Because the thing about it is, think about it when they're 3, like parents hate that. They always complain about the terrible 2s. Kids are learning when they hit 2. I never thought the kids hit terrible 2s.
No.
And I never looked at it as, man, they are so bad. This is the way I saw it. Around that 2 years of age, it's a little before they actually hit 2, but they have discovered that, ooh, when I push that, it will make a noise. And they like the noise, so they push it. It's not that they're trying to be this terrible, bratty little toddler who's just framming around making noise. They have learned how to associate their actions are causing a reaction around them. And it's how you shape them, and all with this teaching while you discipline thing. But think about the 3-year-olds, because I hear parents complain all the time. When the kids hit around that 3 years age, why? Go put that toy in your room, bud. Why? Babe, don't put that glass on the table like that. Why? But they sincerely are wanting to know.
Right.
They sincerely want to know, even as teenagers. You know, if I were to tell, of course, you're 19, almost 20, not a teenager, but if I were to tell you even now, like, you know, Sunday when we get to church and I need you to go into the children's church room and let's make sure that all the names are on the chairs. And if you said, but Mom, why would we do that? We've never done that. That's a sincere, you want to know. You know what I mean?
And I think kids deserve an explanation.
Yes.
You shouldn't just tell them something and expect them to understand where you're coming from. Just because they're a child doesn't mean that they don't need an explanation.
Exactly, because it's all part of teaching them. They're growing older and they want to know, why can't I put my cup on the table? Because, honey, the cup sweats and it leaves rings in our wood that we then can't get out. So cups don't go on the table. They go on a placemat. It's teaching them. But I think that sometimes in the impatience of parents, I don't necessarily think that parents really look at it as a rebellious thing. Well, why? I think that they look at it as, I don't have time to answer this. Just do what I've told you to do.
Right.
Do you think that's true?
Yeah, because they don't want to take the time to educate.
Yeah, because parenting takes a lot of time.
A lot.
It is not for wimpy people. There's a lot to it, and you have to be consistent, and it can be tiring. You know, we talked about last week the importance of, or a couple weeks ago now, because we're going to split this into segments, we talked about the importance of parents getting away to regroup, to refresh, to just catch themselves again, because it is so time consuming. Any of you that have ever worked with children at all, whether it's in a daycare, children's church, you guys have been helping us in children's church now for about a year, and being around the kids and being on top of them, it's tiring. we walk out whenever that hour and a half is up and we're all ready to take a nap. So it can be a lot of hard work, but the rewarding work, like whenever I see our children now, and just the pride in my heart from how stable they are, how mature they are, how smart they are, and the way that they conduct themselves around other people. They're courteous, they're kind. You know, Bub opens doors for people. Matter of fact, you've gotten tipped a few times. We go to a restaurant to go out to eat, and he'll see people either coming or going as we're approaching the door, and he's the type that'll stand there and hold the door for them. You know, baby girl, whenever she's seen people out before she's gotten, matter of fact, just the other day you reached something on a shelf at the grocery store for somebody because they couldn't reach it. And both of you are always looking at the needs of people around you and meeting those needs because you sincerely get it. Like, you get what it means to be kind and loving. And I honestly believe that part of that has to do with they were taught love because they were given love. It wasn't like we just told them, be kind to each other. We showed them how to be kind to each other.
All right, not to be cliche-ish, but it's a return on your investment. It's what you invest into your kids with the time, the attention, the education, the patience, is what you're going to get out of it.
That's right.
And we have seen time and time again those parents who don't want to take the time, who are short, who are harsh, those kids are a product of their environment.
That's right. Or who humiliate them with disciplines, getting on to them severely in front of their kids. Sometimes or friends. Sometimes you do have to get onto them in the moment, and it can be a little embarrassing, but I have seen parents just really rip into their kids with all their friends standing there. Do you guys feel like we did a good job about that? About disciplining you away from friends if you did something wrong? Or do you remember times that you might have been embarrassed that we got you too harsh? Because I'm sure there were times that we did it, maybe for a whole we didn't, but...
I'm sure there were probably times on occasion that you did it, but for the most part, like, I don't really remember them.
And what about you, Bub?
I remember that happening just a couple of times, but for the most part, you always did it in private.
Yeah, like we tried to wait till either we got to the car or pulled you down the hallway, or even at times whenever you guys would have sleepovers here, if I needed to address an issue, there would be times like, babe, come with mommy to the room for a minute and try to talk to you about it away from the girls. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Yeah.